Welcome to this episode of the People Dividend Podcast. I'm Mike Horne. I'm your host for the show, and I am thrilled to have a returning guest on the People Dividend Podcast. And this is a very rare event for those of you who are regular listeners. And the message that Martin Lesperance, our guest, has is so important. I think it's worthy of a repeat listen if you've listened to Martin on the podcast once before. He is engaging all of us in the new conversation around momentum. And here we are in 2025, and we're at the middle of the year in 2025. And I want you to begin thinking about, how do I create momentum until the end of the year? I mean, in the 5 or 6 months that we have remaining, what is it? And what Martin is so skilled at doing, and you'll find all of his contact information and some promotional material in our show notes today. But he is expert, and what inspires me to have Martin Lesperance on the podcast is he has helped me to love my job. and look, it's not difficult when you're a solo entrepreneur, working with a team, to love your job. But I think he brings an additional emphasis, and that's why I'm so curious about his new topic, his new keynote on momentum. He is an expert, I think, in motivating teams and audiences in your group. So, Martin, welcome to the People Dividend. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, sir?
Sure. Thank you, Mike. By the way, this is our second time around going and talking to your listeners on your podcast. And it's a true honor for me to be here and to be with you again. And the idea is, I've always, for the past 35 years, I've been in the coaching, training, and teaching world. My whole career, from all aspects of life, a high school science teacher, to a pharmaceutical trainer, to national director of training and development in the optical world. And through all of that, I've always inspired people to love their job. And that's in the other podcast we did together. Remember, for the ones that are looking at the video, I have my smiley yellow ball of inspire, and that's the first topic. But what we've seen in the past years is we need to keep momentum going, because there is so much change happening. And I sometimes get, Mike, but there's always been change. Why now? Why now? But Mike, you tell me, do things move fast and change fast around you?
Yes, things are moving very quickly, and I think there are a lot of reasons for it, Martin. I'm curious as to what you think makes that happen. First, I think it's just the speed of social media and how it is pervasive, and how we doom scroll and move through things as news cycles seem to change very frequently in 2025. I think there is this need for speed. I want my package that afternoon or the next day, and I'm annoyed if I have to wait a few days. So I think it is. It's so true that we face this accelerating pace of change. And look, I realize that some of you in the audience who have been in human resources, organization development, or consulting for some time, may take a little bit of a jaded view around that. But to really step back and think about the impact it's creating on your ability to create and inspire, as Martin's first big bolus of work is around this inspire. But how do we really, move this now to the next level to keep that momentum going?
That's a great question. And the idea behind momentum is, I need to bring us back to our physics class in high school. Remember that class? And momentum is the energy and the quantity of speed, of moving forward energy that any object has, meaning us as human beings, our organizations, our projects, they all have different momentum. Some are at zero, meaning that they do not move anymore. And some people are also at momentum zero in some aspects of their lives. And that's what I wanted to the image I wanted to bring to people is the fact that the more momentum you have, the easier it is, well, first to move forward, and the hardest it's going to be to stop you. And that's for human beings in a team, that's for organizations, that's for projects. The more momentum you give them, the the more success you're going to see. But I get a feeling, Mike, that some people at some point will say, you know what, Mike, Martin, I'm tired. I can't take change anymore. Look, in the past years, just past few years, we did go through almost a science fiction movie with this pandemic that completely shuffled the working environment, our families, the way we connect to one another. You talked about social media and artificial intelligence everywhere. I mean, I think some of us are at the point where, and as psychologists say, change fatigue. It's we can't take it anymore. And at some point when you are depleted of energy, you just can't put in anymore. It's like just when we are finishing a race, at the end of a long race at the Olympics, you see athletes, they're on the ground laying down. They can't take it anymore. And I think that's we have that with our people.
When I think about momentum, Martin Lesperance, I think about it in a couple of different ways. I think
Please.
about the momentum that's created with just putting one foot in front of another.
True.
And how that may create momentum for some. And yet, to your points, sometimes getting people to take that first step and then to continue on a sustained basis is a Herculean challenge.
Mm.
And yet, to me, it's not the momentum I think about with spinning a gyroscope or, being on an amusement ride. About that, sometimes I think about it just in the small steps that people might have to take in order to realize a vision or a dream.
I see you. You're already jumping ahead to my no, and I love this because I think you and I have a momentum that is in the positive digits. But before we actually get to that, there are reasons why people, how we often hear people resist change. They do not like change. We want to push back on change. And the idea is that I think we do not resist change. We resist the loss of something.
Mm.
We resist the idea of something that we might lose if the change actually happens. And when you mix that with the loss aversion concept, where the pain of losing something is twice as larger than the pleasure of winning something. So if we are not resisting change and we are resisting loss, and loss is twice as high as gain, then I see a lot of organizations talking to their people, explaining why we're going to do this and the benefits of the change and the reasons why. And I can foresee teams going like, okay, this is all good, I get it, but you're missing the point that I'm scared of losing something. And if I am, then we're fighting against something that will it's a win lose, or it's a lose win, or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, it's never going to go through because people will not change for you. They will not change for me. They will change for themselves. So the idea is we need to get to the root cause of what that loss might be. And if I was to ask you, Mike, if a change is coming your way, or you should change something about personal life, professional life, what would you be scared of losing facing that change? As an example.
Yes. So for me, when I think about this concept of loss as it's associated with change,
Yeah.
I fear at times the loss of enjoyment, the loss
Mm,
of pleasure. If I really want to lose these 10 pounds, what are the things? So I'm always about reframing, how do I think about a healthier lifestyle? How do I think about these choices being good for me? Here's an example. A colleague just annoyed the heck out of me,
yeah.
at my 8 o'clock hour, as I'm sort of setting out my workday very optimistically and hopefully, knowing that I have a great guest to speak with today, in you, Martin Lesperance. Um, and, after I sort of thought about it and I responded in a way that I thought was appropriate, I realized that I had choice. I
Mm,
could let that drive my entire day
yeah.
of, hating on that person, feeling bad about
Yeah.
myself. And what I realized is that as an adult, I have choice and I have work to do. So
Yeah.
I sat with I'm afraid I'm losing a relationship with this colleague. I'm afraid that I'm losing credibility in my community with what this person has said. I made a choice to address the issue, to not belabor it, to reorganize and sit with my loss, and then decide to move on and do something positive. And I
And
think we don't have enough of that.
and Mike, you said it. You were scared of losing comfort,
Sure.
right? You were scared of losing credibility. You said it. I think at some point it's almost the freedom to choose on your own. It's at some point we sometimes we're scared of even losing safety. The fact that we are in a routine, we know how we all love certainty, so all of a sudden we're losing some certainty. um, and to some it's the scared of losing their status, meaning that that's the way it's been done for 10, 15 years, and I've become the reference within the team. People come and see me, and all of a sudden I'm going to lose that. Within an instance, because we're changing the way we're doing it. So I think that we need to look at that. And there's been a study that's been done on with two. It was within a group of business students. They split the group in two. Group A, they sent a message saying, you know what, we're going to have change in the training curriculum, and here's how it's going to go. They press send. Group B, they said, you know what? We are going to have change in the training curriculum. Here is how it's going to go. One thing is for sure is we will keep all these aspects the same. And then they listed everything that was going to stay the same. And then they asked Group A and Group B to write a referral email message to their colleagues on how they should frame the change that is upcoming. And Group A destroyed the change. Everything is going to change. We don't know what's going to happen. It was drastic. Versus Group B said, you know what? It's not that bad. It's only one thing that is changing. The most of it is staying the same. And that just proves that when we want to bring change forward as a leadership team, as a management team, not only do, of course, we need to say why we need the change, all the benefits, but we also need to tell the team everything that will continue. Because there is one thing that you and I and all your listeners have is we want to we want to stay the same. We want to keep the same identity we will fight for our identity. And if all of a sudden our identity is up for grabs, where all of a sudden all the aspects of our work is changed and we have weekly huddles, and all of a sudden, oh, I see my boss, I see the VP, I see the president, all talking about change, then we're scared. And if it's just one aspect of it where we convey everything that keeps on going, leaders need to communicate that. A vision of continuity, even though there is change, we will remain the same.
I love what you're saying, Martina, around vision. Certainly one of the key drivers of all meaningful change, any meaningful change that happens in organizations. And I know what the psychologists tell us is that in the absence of certainty, or in periods of uncertainty, we tend to make things up. We tend to hallucinate because we like closure. We like things to be settled and fixed, or many people do. So, earlier in my career, I studied with William Bridges, the expert in transitions. And, Bill would always say is change is inevitable. It's something that we don't have control over. But what we do have control over is how we manage our transitions. He would say that it's not that people are so in love with the past that they can't give it up. And he told this story. He told it he would ask his students to imagine the character Linus in the Snoopy cartoon, the little guy who carries around a blanket, to think about transition as when Linus's blanket was in the laundry dryer, and what that period might have been like for him. So how we have a lot of control over how we manage transition. So again, it's not so much that he would say that we're in love with the past, that we can't let go of it, or so afraid of the future that we can't embrace it. It's the middle that gets us in trouble. And what I have an example of, and I love your wisdom, your guidance, your insights. Let's say I'm an overachiever in an organization, or maybe not an overachiever, but I just have a great idea that I'd like to see come about. And I'm all energetic. There's an expression, eager beaver. I don't know what that means, or if it's offensive to anyone, I apologize, especially beavers. But if it is about, and your boss says, oh, I'm not really interested, I feel like my momentum might be crashed. Well, what do I do?
It is. I mean, a lot of the creative people, I call them the sparkling wine people. The ones that they get that bubble up there, and all of a sudden, sometimes they will go inside a colleague's office that is more of a, either I call them red wine, very like driver type, or very white wine, the analytical, and they will, the bubble will be flat. I mean, they will walk out of that office meeting, and all of a sudden, I mean, they got the bubble has disappeared. They've become flat. And what I bring to the teams when we talk about change, whether you're sparkling or any type of wine facing change, is the first step. Then when you decide to actually go with it, because I mean, you can resist all you want. Try to go up the current in a river of rapids, and you and I, Mike, I mean, we can paddle all we want. We might go for a while, but we'll get tired, exhausted, maybe leave on burnout. I see lots of happening in the corporate world. And so either you resist like that, or we decide to hide behind the rock of the rapid, and we let the current go by each side. But just to give you an idea, 1 meter by 1 meter, 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, like 3 feet, cubic feet of water is 1 ton of force going down a river. So at some point you need to decide, are you going to fight against that, or are you going to use your energy to actually choose on how you're going to go down the river and accept that you will see new opportunities go by, you will have new technologies, new ideas coming by? If not, you're going to try to stagnate behind that rock, letting the current go by. And once you decide to go down the river, then I believe there are three things that we must do. And the first thing, Mike, is you need to choose what you focus on. And we've all heard that. I mean, we end up living the life that we focus on. And I don't know if you've changed cars. Have you changed cars lately, Mike?
Cars? No, unfortunately, no.
No? Okay. Well, if I would ask one of your listeners, have you changed cars lately? And one of them, yes, I just bought this new red. I'm not going to say the brand because I like all brands, but anyway. And well, I like BMW. So a red BMW X3. And all of a sudden you see X3.
I'm more of a gray Mercedes person. But
well, there you go. You see, and all of a sudden you get that gray Mercedes, nicely equipped, and you turn your head around and there are gray Mercedes everywhere around you, and you're like, where the heck were they before? I mean, there must have been a sale at the Mercedes-Benz dealership, but I mean, they were always there. You just didn't see them. So, and I think that when we live through change, whether it's personal or professional, whether it's wanted, so you decided on it, or they were imposed by either the people around you or the organization, you can decide what you focus on. You can decide to look at, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to be rosy and all positive about everything, but you can decide what you focus on. And there's that legend about, the legend about the two wolves. Have you heard that one?
no,
Oh, it's this legend
I think I've
that
heard about
says
the
that.
three wolves, but not the two.
No, it's the two wolves. The two wolves. There's this grandfather that is talking to his grandson, and he says, "You know what? Inside my head, inside my heart, there are two wolves, and they are at war. And one of them is negative. He's very arrogant. He's avid. He lies. He's very proud. He's And on the other side, you have this good wolf who is full of joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, and they keep on fighting." And he looks down at his grandson, and the grandson looks up and he says, "Well, Grandpa, who wins the war?" And Mike, I feel like asking you, who do you think, which wolf will win the war?
Oh, I'm going to leave that to your expertise, Martin.
Okay. Then I'm asking your listeners, which wolf do you think? Well, it's the actual wolf that you feed.
Uh-huh.
The one that you feed will win the war. And inside our head, inside our hearts, we have these two voices that are always at war. Which voice will you feed, and will you use to talk to yourself and talk to the people around you? At some point, even when I discuss that with teams, even them afterwards in meetings, they ask themselves, "Hey, which wolf are you feeding right now?" And all of a sudden, you see the focus change within that meeting, within that discussion. And I think that this revolves around the fact that first, we need to choose what we focus on and which wolf we're feeding.
Martin, you've consulted, you've spoken in some very big organizations, BMO, Desjardins, Walmart, uh,
Yeah.
Canadian federal government, so many big organizations. Are these challenges of momentum, are they unique to big or small organizations, or what do you think?
Interesting. We see them everywhere. We see them everywhere. But I mean, but of course, big organizations, some it's that's the way it's been done. And that's
Hmm.
always the way it's been done. And if you watch the news, you will see some every week make the news.
Hmm.
Well, and if it's small entrepreneurs, there's no choice for these entrepreneurs to be able to go with change and to be the wolf that is front of the pack. So if I was to use the same image from before, so I see it everywhere, because at some point after you decide what to focus on, you need to decide if you're going to be brave or not. And being brave, you know that, Mike, being brave isn't about being fearless. Being brave is feeling the fear and making the choice to do it anyway, to go forward, to lean forward inside the momentum and to go into your, some people call it the discomfort zone. You have your comfort zone, discomfort zone, and then the panic zone. So to go into the discomfort zone, I'm actually changing the label to that zone and call it the stretch zone. If you can decide to be brave enough to go into your stretch zone, between you and I, Mike, and all your listeners, if we would take a break right now and just stretch your body, stretch your arms up and sides. How do you feel? How do you feel?
Energized, ready for the next moment.
Is it
Uh,
is
yes.
so it's the same thing for everything that we do in life. Once you do that stretching, you release the resistance in between the muscle fibers, and that's what we do when we decide to go into our stretch zone. I'm not recommending we go into the panic zone where the grizzlies are running after us, but I mean, if to go inside the stretch zone feels good, come back to your comfort zone after a while if you need to, but you need to be brave enough to go inside your stretch zone. And finally, Mike, you need to do something. You need to act. You need to decide on what will be your next concrete step going forward. What will that look like? The key element for these steps, and you said it before, is they need to be small, incremental. You said it, a small step forward. So a small step, something that you control, that you can keep your hands on the wheel. Remember, because we're in the stretch zone. We're not in the panic zone where we let go of the wheels and we scream. So no, we start small. We something controllable and something that, and I think that way too many people forget to do it, is to celebrate these steps, because we tend to go from one step to another and then we run, and then as soon as we're there, oh, go, and then we stretch again and stretch. You need to take time to celebrate that, because the journey is as joyful as the actual destination.
The journey is as joyful as the actual destination. So true, Martin. Let's, as we begin to think about wrapping up on today's podcast, and for all of you in our listening audience, again, thinking about Martin Lesperance in terms of his keynotes, his topics on momentum, such a critical topic. And one of the themes that we've explored in today's podcast is one that's familiar to so many in HR leadership positions as they help their organizations with change and transformation, is this concept of resistance.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of us are taught that resistance is a bad thing. I've always thought and have been informed by thinking about resistance as something natural.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes resistance has healing properties.
Hmm.
Sometimes it has curative properties. and sometimes it just sort of stops things.
Yeah.
So really understanding more about resistance and how we can use it, how we can either break through it or explore some creative use with it. I think these are really keys in sustaining our momentum. So, Martine, just a few words about resistance and how it factors in with for us for not taking that first small step.
Yeah, I like that. And remember when we talked about that, the fact that why do we resist? I mean, we said it before. We sometimes we resist because we're scared of losing something.
Mm.
And sometimes it's okay to be scared, and we said it earlier, and you just alluded to it. And I think that we tend to look at change in a very logical way, but we are not logical creatures. We are biological creature. We are creatures of emotions. And I think that we need to look at change and resistance in the fact that some people might be scared of losing something. Some people have emotions. And even though we list all the good benefits of what it's going to be and why we need to do this, we need to be realistic in the fact that people want to keep their identity. There's nothing
Mm.
stronger in life, even as a person. We say it all the time. No, I'm like that. I'm not good with numbers. What do you mean you're not good with numbers? No, that's the way I am. What do you mean by that? Did you who this the, nobody said that you need to be the same person as you were 5 minutes ago. You can decide to change that right now. It is what a belief is, right? We believe something, and within a split second, you could decide to change that belief. So, and but it's a question of, we said it, of emotion. And as being biological creatures of emotions, we need to realize that resistance sometimes is just our way of expressing the fact that we're scared of losing our identity.
So important. It reminds me of that expression to remember in the heat of work and organizational life that we are human beings, not human doings.
Oh, I
And
love it.
just as we wrap up now, Martin Lesperance, there'll be lots of information for our listeners to contact you. You'll find that in the show notes for today's episode on momentum with the great Martin Lesperance. And Martin, if you were to provide one or two pieces of guidance to our listeners, think about HR leaders,
Mm.
as we move into the second half of 2025, what would those one or two pieces of advice be in order to create the kinds of change that you often ignite in organizations and for leaders?
Yes, love this. It's funny because not too long ago I made a post on the fact that people out there right now, in when they look at their leaders, and leaders, whether it's leaders, managers, it's colleagues, it's spouse, it's friends. I mean, I'm hoping that in my life I am surrounded by leaders. People desire hope. That's what they look for in the people around them. And funny enough, my last name, L'Espérance, is hope in French. So if we can provide hope to the people around us, and the way that we do so is by having them connect. You've probably heard about the biggest study from Harvard on the biggest factor of happiness is successful relationships. And if you can have people connect, and if you have people in your team realize that yes, there is change coming, but there is also continuity that keeps going. So even though we do evolve, I think that we are keeping the same identity. And it's a question of choice at some point. Will you decide to have a momentum that brings you forward, or a momentum that just halts and everybody stops. And that goes for your personal and your professional life.
Well, that's so great. And it's been really wonderful to be in conversation today with Martin Lesperance. What I think about Mr. Hope is that hope is one of the most critical items that consultants, keynote speakers, and others bring to an organization, often in short supply. And having this sense of energy and optimism and hope with Martin Lesperance will certainly drive your organization forward. So I encourage you to reach out and be in touch with him. So once again, Martin Lesperance, thank you for being a guest on the People Dividend Podcast. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for hosting this. It's our second time around. Who knows? Maybe it's something that we do every couple of months. But thank you so much.
Well, as long as you keep helping us think about these great topics, inspire and momentum, I'm looking forward to the next step in the trilogy. All right. Until the next episode of the People Dividend Podcast, stay well.